Thank you for coming.
Thanks for inviting. Thanks for inviting.
Please.
Sure. Okay. Thank you for inviting.
Let me guess, how many events do you have today?
Just a couple, 4 or 5.
So it's a slow day for you?
It's a whole day, all the way till midnight, yeah.
It's a slow day because it's only 4, right?
Yeah, it's only 4. We used to have like 6 or 7
in
on
one day.
Yeah, on a Friday. That stretches from 8 a.m. all the way to midnight.
I know.
And then the following day too.
So. You are the People's Consul General.
Yeah, well.
Very much so. I think I've been in this country for, I'm embarrassed to say, but for almost 30 years now, right? Because people start calculating, gaano kaya katagal, what's her age? But, you know, we've been in this country for almost 30 years now, and I've never seen anybody who has come as close as you have to the Filipino community.
Wow, that's
What's behind it?
Well, that's a very pleasing and a very uplifting thing to hear. But it also comes with so much pressure because now, you know, that it looks like I have to up the ante every single year, and you know, sometimes I'm afraid that I might not have enough to give anymore when you know that you give out so much of yourself and so much of your time.
Don't you get tired?
I do. Well, physically, yeah, it is very tiring. But luckily, my wife and I have the same disposition. So it's not really a very difficult task for me to go around and, you know, meet with people and just, you know, be with the crowd and everybody else, because that's my personality. And as I said, luckily my wife is of the same breed. And because we share that same passion when it comes to, you know, to meeting other people, being with other people, organizing events and so forth and so on, it becomes a tandem, and it becomes something easy for me because I know I have somebody to rely on as well.
Let me backtrack there for a bit, ConGen, because, okay, we know that it's a very demanding task, but why even get into that? Why even set a precedent? Because I think diplomats, right, of course, for you, you have your consular duties and your diplomatic duties. The community duties are really just like the cherry on top, but you spend so much time on top of everything that you do. What's the motivation behind that?
Well, I don't know if you remember, but 4.5 years ago when you first interviewed me for Illustrado, I said that for right or for wrong, the community looks at the consulate as the repository for all their answers, their, you know, their concerns could be, you know, taken care of and so forth and so on. And there has to be somebody who needs to play that role of you know, keeping the community together, gelling them as a group. And that really falls on our shoulders, on my shoulder. As I said, for right or for wrong, it may be, you know, it may be right as far as, you know, the other people are concerned, but it may be wrong as far, let's say, as, you know, the job is concerned. When you said that we do have a lot of work as far as consular services are concerned, that's true. Dubai.
I mean, you've got the biggest chunk of the Filipino community on your side here, right?
And you know, Dubai has always been one of the top 3 or even the top posts as far as passport applications are concerned. You know, the number of consular authentication and notarial services that we issue and so forth and so on.
Sorry to interrupt you, but just to put a little bit more context into that, because we have friends from the diplomatic community from all over the world. I know that Dubai is one of the most feared postings, right?
Yeah.
Am I correct?
It is.
It's a big pressure for the diplomats out here.
It's big, really. Especially when you think of 500 applications per day. that's something really daunting. And with a certain number of people that you have, with a finite number of personnel that you have, it becomes a challenge, especially when you try to manage, you know, the public's expectation of an easy, convenient passport application process, and you know, and the human side of the ones at the back. Obviously, we're not robots, so when you're there 8 hours a day, accepting all the application, you know, you get tired, you need to go to the restroom, you get hungry as well.
Of course, you're human.
But these are the things that, you know, sometimes people do not understand, because they do expect that sort of perfect and convenient treatment
of course.
all throughout. And that's a challenge. And it becomes more challenging, especially when people start, you know, complaining on social media. And then,
I know what
and then
you
it becomes
mean.
like a rat pack, you know?
I know what you mean. I'll go back to the community, you know, angle of it. But again, going back, picking from where you left off, I know that there are people who will never be happy, no matter how hard you work. I mean, even just from the consulate side of it, just from the diplomatic duties side of it, there will always be people complaining, we didn't get the appointment that we wanted, it was, you know, disorganized or whatever. What do you have to say to those people?
Well, we're trying our best. We try our darn best to make it more convenient for everyone. But of course, it has to be convenience, not just for one or two people, but convenience for the public. Obviously, when you want to accommodate, let's say, one person, you'll do that at the expense of the ones who had already been there on queue.
Yeah.
And one, is it proper to displace the queue or to dislodge the queuing system for the sake of one person, because you know that this person is a very noisy one who could go on social media? Then it becomes, you know, a balancing act as well. But so clearly, what we need to understand is, if it's in the you know, in the service of and the good service for more people, then that's what really matters, not just, let's say, for the convenience of one.
Let me share something about this, because people know that we work closely with the consulate and all. It's not strange that sometimes we get approached by people saying, can you please, you know, knock on the door and, you know, help us get this favor from the consulate, help us get, you know, an earlier schedule or whatever. And we tell the people that we're very close to you, or at least we consider that we're close in some way, shape, or form, and yet we do not call you for our personal things. We go there and we line up just like everybody else. So, you know, I think we need to kill that kind of mentality that because I know the ConGen or I know the people working there, we have to be first in line because everybody else has to fall in line, right?
Very, very true, and we appreciate that as well. Although we also understand that there are extenuating circumstances that may necessitate people to just, you know, lock on our doors, and this is where our discretion comes in. And more often than not, we do accommodate quite a number of people with really, really serious circumstances, and that needs, you know, serious and quick action as well.
And I think people do not really understand the sheer volume of what you have to deal with on a regular basis, right? Can you paint that picture again for us?
Sure. Okay, 500, 600 passport applications a day, and then you have
500.
So you have something like 300 or 400 people seeking consular services as far as notarial services are concerned. So this would be their affidavits, their special power of attorney, and so forth and so on. And there are people who want to claim their passports. There are people who apply for visas. There are people who report their marriages or report the births of their children. And there are people who actually seek assistance as far as their labor issues are concerned, their visa issues, and so forth and so on. So all in all, you have something like 1,200, 1,300 people visiting the consulate every single day. 1,300
people on a daily basis.
On a daily basis.
The regular routinary duties, right? This is not without the special issues, like if a Filipino is needing some special assistance out there, or they have some issues or problems out there that you need to fix.
True. Aside from that, so you're looking at 1,300 people. What do you need to do? You need to manage your crowd. You need to manage your queue. You need to manage the space they are in. You try to make it as comfortable as they can. Especially, and it becomes quite challenging, especially as the summer months come in, because once it starts to get 40, 50 degrees, and then it becomes really difficult.
And it's tiring for people also.
It's tiring. They need to line up at some point. They need to, you know, either position themselves inside the cabin or line up to have their papers photocopied and so forth. And that becomes an issue for them to, even to line up for a minute or two, because it's also physical.
I know, but they don't realize the pain or the suffering or the challenges that people who are in the front line or you and your team have to go through.
Exactly, and and of course, here comes the aesthetics. You'd like to keep your consulate as as pretty, as neat, as presentable, not only to the Filipinos but to everybody else as concerned. But then you have 1,300 people coming in and out, so there's the usual wear and tear, and there's the usual maintenance that you need to come up with.
Definitely.
The floors need constant polishing.
I can
the walls
imagine.
need constant repainting. So it becomes a very financial issue as well to make everything spick and span, so that it's pleasing to the eye as well.
I know.
And the air conditioning has to be okay. It has to be 25 degrees or even less.
It's getting hot again.
It's getting warm again. So especially in the summer months, you can imagine how much we really need to come up with as far as keeping the temperature to a comfortable level is concerned.
So you have the 1,300 people coming in on a daily basis. You have your work with the UAE government. You have your work with the rest of the diplomatic corps. And then you've got so many Filipino events and the organizations and the clubs and the groups that you have to deal with. What's in it for you as a person? Why put yourself through all that? Why put your family through all that? Because it can't be easy. I mean, sometimes I look at you and I'm like, I can't do that to my family. It must be difficult.
Well, I realize that every single thing that I need to do, there's something to be learned. I may not really see at this very, very moment, because I'm right here in the action, and I can't look at it on a very objective basis because I'm still right there. But maybe 5, 10 years from now, I could see exactly what it is that I could probably learn from all these. In the same way, prior to Dubai, I was in Hawaii, where we had sort of like a similar Dubai, but on a lesser scale. The consular services were not as heavy as it is over here. Community is very, very heavy over there. And my takeaway after 7 years of being there is that it is very necessary to come up with a nice, beautiful, and harmonious working relationship with the Filipino community wherever you are. Because that is that tests your mettle as a government and a public servant.
Are you happy doing all this?
Yeah.
So it really feeds you, I guess, because I've seen you in action and you never stop. You're like the Energizer Bunny, so it's like that, and it's nonstop. Every time we see you, it's totally nonstop.
And it's it's as I said, it's something that I share with my wife, who's the unsung hero, let's say, of the Filipino community here, because not too many people see also how much sacrifice she has. In our society, mothers are have a more difficult task of keeping the family together. And especially we have a little boy, we have 3 kids, 2 are in the university already, and this little boy needs just so much attention from my wife, from myself, and she's the one who just feeds everything in, and she has to balance that too, as far as her role as the wife of the Consul General is concerned.
And do that looking gorgeous and in high heels, right?
Yeah, of course.
Right? I mean, going back to what you said, the necessity for a harmonious relationship with the community. It's not always harmonious.
No.
Let's face it. I mean, we've seen a lot of things, we've heard a lot of things. I think the more you put yourself out there in the community, the more you have the so-called haters, the more you have the detractors. It's always there. How do you deal with something like that?
I used to be so affected when I hear negative things from other people, especially I thought that this person was a friend or somebody who supported the consulate and so forth and so on. But then, in the end, I guess I'm not in this job. None of us are here on earth to make everybody to please everybody according to their perceptions. For as long as I think I'm doing the right thing, I know a lot of people are happy with what I'm sharing with them, myself and my job, and so be it. If there's 1 or 2 or 10 people who feel that they have not been in the good services of Paul Cortes, then I'm sorry. It's not my intention to do a disservice to you. But if you feel that way, then maybe there are there will be other moments where I could be of be of good service to them.
I always say it, you guys are too kind. Too kind to a fault, I think. But that's me. Yeah.
I guess it's the Libra in me. I don't know. I'm trying
yeah.
to.
Oh
I'm
my
trying
goodness!
To balance.
Now it figures. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to balance as much as I can,
But what's the worst thing? If you're comfortable telling me that, what's the worst thing that hit you out there, and did it ever occur to you that you had to doubt yourself if you're doing the right thing or whatever? I mean, was there any point in your career or your relationship with the community that happened?
Well, at some point, I even thought whether my priority of liaising and being and linking and bridging with the Filipino community was the right thing to do in the first place. Should I have just stayed on within the four walls of the consulate and be in my ivory?
Which is what typically is done, right?
Yeah, well, okay.
Right? That's true.
Well, should I stay in my ivory tower
Yeah.
and watch everybody else do whatever it is that they want to do without me just intervening or being with them? Should I just be here? And when I could have been very comfortable, very content, quiet in my own solitude, because I don't have the other people of the community just ringing in my ear and everything else. At some point, I doubted that, but then. What am I here for? I figure that at some point I have to make probably the reason I have to be here. Probably one of the reasons I was posted in Budapest where there were not too many Filipinos, and then to Hawaii where there were over 200,000 Filipinos, and then now to Dubai where you have 800,000 Filipinos. Maybe this is God's way or the divine way of telling me that there's a progression in everything I do, and that there's
you're
something,
where you're needed, I guess.
Yeah, let me tell you how I got Dubai. I got promoted as chief of mission sometime January 2015, and I guess they were, because as chief of mission, then now you could be a head of post. So either a head of an embassy or a head of consulate general. And I remember the head of human resources asked me if I was interested in Dubai. And I said, you know what, can I think about that? And let me discuss this with my wife. So we discussed this with my wife. The following day, I was called to the office of the secretary. It was Secretary Albert Del Rosario then. And he goes, so you're going to Dubai?
Just like that.
And I was like, that was quick. And I didn't have time to process. We spoke about that the night before, but we didn't have time to prepare ourselves emotionally. Because when he says that, when your big boss tells you that you are going to this place, there's nothing else you can do. I mean, we're soldiers at some point in our career. So whatever our bosses tell us, that's where we go. And so right there and then I told myself, oh yeah, Dubai. And to be honest, I had a vague idea what Dubai was going to be all about. I know it is a big Filipino community. It's a heavy ATN heavy, Assistance to Nationals heavy post. But nothing could have prepared me, better than actually coming here and seeing it for myself. I read about it. I read the previous annual reports, but there's, it's different when you read and you're actually right there in the middle of the action.
I'm very interested beyond the numbers. Obviously, this is a huge post, so many Filipinos out here, but beyond the numbers, what makes this community different from the Filipino communities out there in the world? Is there any difference?
Yeah, much. The ones in the U.S., the Filipino community in the U.S., have been there much longer than the consulate people have. Most of the Filipinos in the U.S. have been there, 10, 20 years, are U.S. citizens, they're permanent residents of the United States. Their link to the Philippines is as far as vacationing is concerned, and as far as, their properties are concerned, and so forth, so on. The Filipino community here is a very, it's a pressure cooker, because you know that the Filipino community here have everything at stake. And if you understand what it is for a lot of the Filipinos here, this is their only way to give their families back home a better life. This is their way of putting their children to school. This is their way of building their family's future back home in the Philippines. Then you understand what people here are going through every single moment of the day. And that's when you put that at the back of your mind, of the foundation, let's say, of everything you do as far as consular services are concerned, it becomes something really difficult. It becomes
it's a big challenge.
It's a challenge because now you have to. It's one thing to know what they're going through. It's one thing to balance your resources as far as providing efficient and effective consular services are concerned, but it's also one thing to understand and to empathize what these Filipinos are going through, especially as far as their families are concerned.
Despite your physical situation, your mental and your emotional situation, you've got to take everybody on board, I guess.
Yeah,
That's a big challenge.
And you gotta take care of yourself too. You said physical.
Of course,
The hard part about internalizing all these is that sometimes it may cause a little ruckus as far as your physical and emotional state well-being is concerned. You got to make sure that while you empathize, while you're able to understand as much as you can what everybody feels and how to balance all these, you have to know how to love yourself and take care of your health. You cannot make stress seep in to your consciousness or to your to your feelings.
So what's the Paul Raymund Cortes recipe for going through challenges? I mean, just quickly, what are the if you can give me 3 things.
I love to sing a lot.
Okay, so you sing when you're stressed?
Yeah. I sing a lot. I vocalize a lot. I like playing with my vocal cords, and singing has always been one of my passions. And this is I spent 6 years of my life singing professionally. To no regrets. I may have been.
We're still your fans,
I wish I could sing as often as I used to.
We'll give you a reason to sing, more reasons to sing, yeah?
But you remember also what I told you. Some people were telling me when I started being head of post, that I should lessen a little bit what my singing, because it doesn't look very consul generalish.
But I'm glad that you continued, because I think that makes you that makes you unique, right?
I told you also that I cannot share who I am as a person without sharing everything.
Of course, yeah.
And when I mean I share everything, I mean my passion for singing, my love for the arts, my love for entertainment, my love for entertaining.
I think that's what makes you original. I think it will be difficult if you don't do your job and you're just singing. But you're doing your job 300% and you're singing, that's just a cherry on top, right?
Well, sometimes though, there are people who say, "Oh, that consul general, all he does is sing, sing, sing," and I'm like, "Yeah, as I said, you can't."
I'm like, okay.
I can't explain everything to everybody, but if that's how they feel,
we'll give you more reasons to sing later on.
Oh, okay, sure.
So number 1, singing. What's the next one?
Well, sorry. Can I? Yeah. That would be my number 3. Singing.
Oh, okay. Singing is the number 3. What's number 1 and 2?
A family.
Family. Okay.
Because as I said, the most beautiful thing that ever happened to my life is that my wife and I share so many things. Our perceptions of of events, our perceptions of my job, her job, our role in the community. We're all in sync. And we have this similar undertaking as far as understanding who we are as husband and wife and as individuals in Dubai, and for the rest of the 23 years that we've had in the foreign service as well.
So family, singing. What's in the middle? What's number 2?
Well, I love my job. I love my job.
That's very good, and it shows. I have to say.
I cannot imagine myself doing another thing. And as I told you before, I've shared with you before that my entry into the foreign service was just so random. It was so, serendipitous. And who would have thought really? I'm a math major.
Yeah.
I graduated math.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You took everything. What is this?
No, I was a math
You're
major.
a diplomat, singer, and a mathematician?
Math computer science major.
Oh my goodness.
And
life is not fair.
No, but when my first job was at SGV, and I stayed there for quite some time, But then I realized
Yeah.
how unhappy I was, you know, that I could not foresee
That was not
myself
fulfilling
doing.
you.
For some reason, you know, you're young. We all graduate when you're 20, yeah? So you're 21, 22, and you're just clueless as what you really
Yeah.
want to do. And I quit my job at SGV and went straight into professional singing. And I had no idea too that I wanted to do or could do
Yeah.
pop, because in university, in college, I was a member of the Ateneo Glee Club, and our
You had to mention Ateneo. UP's better daw.
okay.
Yeah, right. It's like
No,
that.
no.
Okay.
In the Ateneo Glee Club, our expertise was choral singing,
Yeah.
you know, classical choral singing. And when I started doing my professional singing, it was pop, it was jazz. So I had to rework some of the placements, and it was, you know, it's a little different performing alone on stage with you
Yeah.
know, with musicians behind you.
I mean, who would have thought that you could use all these skills, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
It's great.
Everything just went, you know, from one step to another, seemingly random steps. But, you know, in the end, here we are, you know, doing this
Yeah.
Illustrado interview. And
There you go. Rapid fire. I want to ask you a couple of personal questions if you don't mind, right?
Yeah, sure.
How do you keep the love alive? How do you keep the flames alive with all the busyness going on?
a lot of passion.
Ako naman yung nahiya doon. My turn to get embarrassed. I thought I was gonna make you red. I'm like red in the cheeks now. A lot of passion, really.
A lot of passion.
Because it's so difficult, right? Everybody's busy and everybody's running. I mean, doesn't Ma'am Yas get jealous of the job? Yeah,
No, she's part of it.
she's part of it.
She's part of it,
That's You're very good in strategizing.
She's part of it. She's part
Make
of
the
it.
wife a part of the job so
Yeah.
she won't have anything to,
As
to
I said,
complain about.
the lucky part is that she shares my view, and
I
she's
know, and we do appreciate.
and she's actually
both of
even
you.
more comfortable with crowds than
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah, she's the great softener. You know, bringing to good use that charm and that wit and her friendliness. If you were an ulam, what would you be?
Adobo?
Oh, you're an adobo because?
Pang araw-araw. Pwedeng pang araw-araw.
Okay. You thought about this.
No.
So
I was about to say.
you're an adobo. What's the worst thing somebody can do to you?
Backstab me.
Backstab you.
Yeah.
What's your reaction when somebody backstabs you?
I just I don't backstab. I don't backstab him back or her back. I just stay away.
Favorite hugot line?
To be honest, a hugot line. I have no idea.
Everybody else makes hugot except you, I guess,
No,
right?
no, yeah. I laugh. I see it on Facebook and
Yeah.
all those hugot lines, and I laugh. But you know, to be honest, I find it difficult to dwell on sad hugots or something like that, because you know, to be honest, one of the things you also asked me a while back is, you know, what keeps me going. It's you know, it's just that attitude of having something to look forward to. And at some point, to be honest,
Very
when
optimistic,
when I hear bad things about me, I just, you know, what the hell. You know, if that's what they want.
Leave
and then
it,
I go
right?
again, move forward. And then somebody else will come
Exactly.
again. You know, the nice thing about, you know, just being happy and being optimistic is that it feeds on itself.
Yeah.
You know, one thing that I learned when I was much younger, I used to be very, you know, one of those jealous people, one who wants to get back at people.
Really? I cannot imagine
That was
you like
me
that at all, right?
When I was younger, you know, the one person who changed me, my wife. And then she says, you know, at some point you just have to understand that people are given different cards in this world, you know.
Super.
And then, you know,
That's what you need, a sensible, you know, partner in life to do for you,
yeah,
right?
and vice versa. She, you know, I also, you know, I hope that she learned something from me as well. But in my case, I did learn a lot from her. I did learn a lot from her perspective of life, of what people have, what people don't have, etc.
Last question for you. Who is the Paul Raymund Cortes that nobody knows? Or not, the public doesn't know? Who is he? What is he into? What's keeping him awake at night?
What's keeping you? Netflix?
What show?
Oh no! I do watch a lot of movies. I do watch a lot of shows. I watch a lot of you know, series. And you know, for some reason it just calms my my nerves. It calms me. It makes me understand a lot of things all the more. And that's why I do feel passionate too about the Filipino film industry.
Super. So you're a brand ambassador, Netflix.
Yeah,
Netflix, singing, and your beautiful wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much for lending your time with us today.
That's it.
This was a very good conversation, right?
I would have thought it would be an hour. So.
Oh my goodness, we have to do more.
Part 2.
Next time you have to sing.
How much? Just kidding.
Talent fee.
No, sure,
Thank you so
sure.
much. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yay!